welcome to another episode of Susie Lynn Sosa's YouTube. This is part 2 to the STEM fashion show I'm designing for, which I'm so excited about. And today we're going to be talking about the first step after all the designing that went into episode 1. Today we'll be talking about the first steps of sewing and patterning and actually starting to make something and not just dreaming it up. And so first off, this episode is going to be talking about my corset. One other thing I'm going to talk about in this video is my outfit for the fashion show. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that first and then we'll jump right into corset making. So I need a dress for myself for the fashion show. And I decided I kind of want to do it today as a more fun personal project rather than having to jump right into doing something maybe a little more stressful and high stakes. So today we're just going to do some dyeing, which is very fun for me, very silly and goofy and like a fun exercise for me to do. So I want to chat a little bit and tell you about my design process for my dress. I was thinking a lot about it yesterday and I was thinking like I want to be relevant to the Cosmic Couture theme of the fashion show. I don't want to wear something that's like not relevant to that and like totally off brand for that. And I want to wear something that's me and fits me and my brand and the things I love to make as well. But I also want to be professional and dignified and, you know, look like I've got my crap together. Because sometimes I do, so might as well look like it. And so I was like, the first image that was popping into my head was this, like something a lot like this. But that dress, I won't feel confident in that with my body type. Like, it's not gonna look like it looks on the model in this picture, and so it's gonna frustrate me and I won't be satisfied with it. So that's probably not the best option. And then in addition to that, I realized like that's not me. Like that's very distinguished and dignified and perfect for like a fancy fashion show and going to a fashion show as a designer. But it's not really me. Like I wouldn't feel like myself in that dress. Like I wouldn't feel confident because of my body type, and I wouldn't feel like myself because of the style of the dress and the fact that my style doesn't really match that, and I don't really wear clothes like that. Like it just doesn't really vibe. So then I was like, okay, like what's the solution here? And I decided that the solution is to be true to myself but also still formal, basically, which was the original plan, but like it took me a little while to figure out how that would look, like what that would look like. And so I was on Pinterest, as one is, and I saw this dress suggested to me, this purple one, and I was like, oh, that's gorgeous, like that's amazing, I love that. And it's the point where it's like a little more flowy, so I feel a little more comfortable in it rather than like more tight of the satin one I showed first. So that's good. I feel more comfortable in it and like it fits my style better. It fits my style a lot better. And I realized that's perfect for the organza I just bought that I have so much of, that would work perfectly. And it would involve some dyeing. And then that was the other big pro of this project that I realized, is that dyeing is a pretty important part of my creative process. I love dyeing so much. I love dyeing fabric, and getting to dye the organza to what I want would be perfect for me and for my creative process. So that's exciting. And this is the inspo for the dress. This is the style we're going for, like an organza flounce dress. But I want it to be a darker purple. I want it to be like a purpley pink splotchy funness, kind of like Kat's dress here, but a little less splotchy. I'm going to try using Kat's method that she used, except with liquid dye. I'm not going to sprinkle the grains of stuff on it and the grains of powder dye to like make the splotches like she did. I'm just going to kind of zhuzh it around with liquid dye. So I've got my BFF Rit Dye More here. If you didn't know, there's two kinds of Rit dye. So there's Rit all-purpose dye, which is where, at least in my Walmart, if you're getting this at Walmart, if you're at Joann's, sometimes they're in the same spot, but at my Walmart, they're in two completely different places. This is in the fabric section. This is in like the paper craft section, and they're in completely like opposite sides of the store, which is so stupid to me. It really frustrates me. But Rit all-purpose dye is going to do all your natural fibers. So it's going to do cotton, linen, silk, wool, and it will also, it says, dye rayon and nylon as well. So if your dye contains 35% or less of polyester, acrylic, or acetate, and the other percentage, the larger majority of the percentage, is cotton, linen, rayon, silk, wool, or nylon, Rit all-purpose dye is what you want. This is a lot easier to use. It's a lot more agreeable and chill. Rit synthetic hates you. It hates your guts. And it is what you need for polyester. Nylon, this says nylon too. This will work on nylon, but probably not as well as this will. And acrylic. And so this dye is the devil, but also it's really fun and I love it at the same time. So Rit Dye More for synthetics is what you're going to need if you have any sort of polyester clothing. And my fabric is all polyester that I'm working with today. So I've got my Rit Dye More. Hello! So the organza has been dyed. As a reminder, this is what it started out as, this kind of really soft mauve, and now it's kind of this darker bluey purple, blurple. So the dye worked and actually dyed it, which is exciting. I was worried it was, because I let it sit for an hour and it actually worked. But it all blended together, the colors I poured, so it's just all the same color. So that's okay. I'm not super upset about it. It's a little disappointing, but it's gonna be fine. I'm not too worried. Okay, so then I also dyed the lining tonight. And of course the lining which I wanted to be one solid color, is what turned out splotchy, which I find very amusing. But that's okay. I'm not, again, not too upset. This is a project where I'm kind of just going to go with the flow and not really try to make it anything specific. I'm just kind of let what happens happen, let the inspiration strike me based on what I see and find. So we're going to chill with it. Let's chill. Okay, so tonight's project is stamping, fabric stamping. So I decided, because this didn't turn out the way I wanted, with the kind of splotchy dye, I decided I'm going to go back to an original idea I had, which is to stamp a design on the fabric. So I just did a bunch of research on stamping, and I'm thinking it's gonna work. We're gonna try it out. It's gonna be iffy. I'm a little nervous. I'd be more confident if I was working with like cotton or something. But this is polyester organza, and not like a nice cotton broadcloth. So I'm not sure if it's going to work. I haven't seen anyone doing it on this kind of material, so we're going to see what happens. So far this project has been all stuff I already have. What I also already have is stamps. So my boyfriend is a stamp collector, like postage stamp collector. And so long story, basically I want to make him stamps for a surprise that I'm planning for him. And so a few months ago, I bought all this materials to carve my own linoleum stamps and stuff. I did a whole bunch of research on this. I got everything from Blick, and I did a lot of research to figure out what I needed and what I wanted and stuff. So hopefully this pays off in more ways than one. And I've got two different kinds of fabric paint to test. I have Folk Art Textile Medium, and then some Folk Art paint to mix it with, just like regular acrylic paint. And then I have Imagine 8 Soft Touch Fabric Paint. So I haven't done a ton with this, but from my understanding, Textile Medium you add to acrylic paint and it makes fabric paint. The real difference between acrylic paint and fabric paint is that acrylic paint is going to crack on clothes because it can't fold or bend or be soft, and fabric paint is going to bend with the fabric. So supposedly this will make it happen. No, I don't know what I'm doing. This is pure guesswork and what I've seen people do on YouTube. Yeah, it's like stretching really nicely. I should have, like, look at that. It's soft, it's malleable. Look at the stamping. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. Let's hope it washes well. I'm really excited this worked. I was worried it wasn't going to work, and then I was going to be back to square one and be sad because I wouldn't be able to stamp my fabric. But it worked. I think it was definitely the way to go to do fabric paint because ink would bleed into the organza a lot, I think, and would just not look good. So, highly recommend, if you're doing this on organza, to do fabric paint and not fabric ink, like the internet recommends, or some people recommend, it depends on who you ask, but there's some people who said that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna go do some doodles now. The question is, what do I want to doodle? I think I want to do something space related, but also Kyla related. Cats in rocket ships. That was my first thought, is cats in rocket ships. No, that's a little too goofy. We need to be a little more elevated than that. Hello and welcome to our field trip today. So last we left our heroes. In the last video I was talking about my stamping. We did the stamping practice, and so then I went to research what design I wanted to do for stamps, and I went to my good friend ChatGPT. I have mixed feelings about ChatGPT, but my boyfriend really loves it, as he's a scientist and he really likes using it for sciencey things and non-sciencey things too. But as an artist, I have mixed feelings about it, obviously, but it is really helpful for research, and that's what I was doing. So I asked ChatGPT, I want to have a space-themed design on my dress, but I don't want it to just be stars and constellations because that seems really boring. Do you have any ideas? And so it starts to tell me about things, and I was like, okay, no, this is quite right. And then I asked it about like how our internal like human selves are so reflective of the cosmos, and that we have like worlds and planets and stars and all this stuff inside of us, and how I believe that like we are as complex and intricate as the stars. And it brought up this term that I had never heard of. It's called the microcosm-macrocosm analogy or concept. It's the idea that human beings are structurally similar to the cosmos as a whole. So I was reading about this. Do you turn around?
Yeah.
Okay, new scenery change. Okay, so I was reading about the microcosm-macrocosm theory on Wikipedia. And I'm reading it and I'm like, this is so cool. Like, this is exactly like what I was talking about. Like, this is the exact idea that I was thinking about. And then it talks about the seven classical planets, and how there are these 7 classical planets that are basically the planets that are visible to the naked eye. And so back in the day, some like doctors and medicinal people compared the 7 classical planets and assigned it to a body part and like an organ in the body. And I was like, oh wait, that's really cool. Like, that's really relevant. And then I'm sitting there on the couch at like 3 a.m. thinking, and one of my favorite quotes of all time pops into my head. It's from Maggie Stiefvater's The Raven Cycle in the last book, The Raven King. There's a line, trees in your eyes, stars in your heart. And I just love that line so much. It's so poetic and so beautiful, and I love it. And I'm like, wait. This is something, like this idea of like having natural big world element things inside of us, like trees in your eyes, stars in your heart. And I'm like, this is something, like I want, like, hold on, we're holding on to this idea. And then I keep thinking about it, and then I think about the phrase, I contain multitudes, which has become kind of a meme, but apparently was originally a Walt Whitman phrase from a poem. And I'm thinking about all this, and I'm like, okay. And then I get it. I'm like, I get the image. I'm like, okay, we are going to design 7 designs of a body part with something inside of it. So the heart with stars inside of it. And so that's what I did. I finished it tonight before we came out on this walk. And let me tell you what each of them are as I show them on the screen. So I didn't want to do trees in your eyes because I wanted to stick it to be very cosmic and space themed, obviously. So I decided to do the sun in your eye, and then I kept with stars in your heart because I love it. And then I was listening to a song from Natasha Pierre on The Great Comet of 1812, No One Else, where Natasha is singing about her love for her fiance. And she talks about, and the world opened wide and the world was inside of me. And so then that was inspiring me, and I was thinking about like the world being inside of us, and then I was thinking about like eating the world and consuming the world, and so then I put the world in the stomach. And then I put nebulas in the brain because I feel like a nebula looks a lot like how our brain's neurons fire. So I did a nebula in the brain, and then I did the magnetosphere in the lungs, largely inspired by the aurora borealis. If you don't know what the magnetosphere is, it's the thing that makes the aurora borealis possible, from my understanding. And then we've got the moon in the uterus and an asteroid belt in your hand. And so those are the 7 designs I've come up with. Again, tying to nice number 7, very good number. I figured that's how many I do. And I am going to now carve them out of linoleum. Welcome back. Today we are making our mock-up. So this is the muslin mock-up with no boning, just to see if the pattern, what the shape of the pattern looked like that I patterned last night / middle of the night / earlier this morning. I did not sleep. But I'm really satisfied with the way everything looks otherwise. I think it's going to look really good. Yeah. So other updates is I have got some fabric for the mock-up. So I got this duck canvas, just plain black duck canvas for the mock-up. And then I got zip ties, cable ties. I am going to be using steel boning from Wawak for the final corset, but I didn't want to wait for shipping for that to get to me, so this is the best option in stores around me is zip ties. Zip ties, from what I've read, I did a lot of research, and from what I've heard, it's better than like the cheap plastic boning that you can get at Joann's. Zip ties are actually going to be sturdier if you get like the heavy duty ones. So these are heavy duty 24-inch cable ties, indoor outdoor use. They can hold up to 175 pounds, so should be good. I am putting a zipper in just because I don't care about historical accuracy or anything like that, and so I'm not going to be doing the busks, because on traditional like corsets they have busks that like clasp in the front. I'm not going to be doing that. 1, because I don't think that's the look I'm going for. 2, I don't care. I'm just gonna do what I want. So I'm just gonna put in a side zipper here and call that a day. And then I did get a bunch of boning out of my dear thrifted stuff, but it's all really crappy. Like, it's not good boning. And so I'm like, you know what? we're just gonna get the cable ties. So I figured I'd walk you through how I did this. I'll include some links here on the screen and down below of the tutorials I followed to do this, but this is kind of a quick summary of those tutorials and what I did and what I took and what I didn't take from those tutorials. And so the number one thing is a kind of hack for making a pattern. It works really well for me, but it's not the official like fashion school way to do it. In my experience, the fashion school way doesn't turn out the way I want it to. And so I found that the way I do is a lot more intuitive and just is really easy and works well. Okay, so I spent a solid 40 minutes today at the library filming a video trying to explain how I patterned the corset mock-up for Ellie's corset. It was very foolish of me because trying to explain how to do that just verbally with no images or visuals is virtually impossible. And so I come back to edit the video, and I try and edit the video, and I'm like, you can't understand this. This is so, like, this is useless. So today I am now going to just remake the corset and show you how I would make the corset with my skills and my understanding of pattern making. I'm going to use my own measurements. We're going to use my own measurements for this, just so you can get an idea. My measurements are very atypical versus what like the standard measurements are on like any garment. Like any ready-made pattern is not going to fit me right because it's made for completely different proportions than I have. But first, let me walk you through what measurements you're going to take, okay? Okay, I'm just going to do them sitting down because if you were actually doing this for real, you would want to do this standing up. Please don't do this sitting down unless you're lazy and crazy like me. I'm only taking the measurements I need for this corset that we're making. I'm not taking all the measurements I would normally take if I was making a full base bodice block or something like that. So basically, you're going to start above your bust where you want the corset to start. I'm going to start right there. And then you're going to measure down to your nipple, the center of your bust. For me, it's 4 inches. And then down to the underbust, scoop it down, and then down to the waist. I have a little video to show you about the waist that I did explain earlier. My tip for the waist is where it bends. When you bend like sideways like this, where the natural bend in your waist is, that's your natural waist. A lot of people say the skinniest, the thinnest part of your body, but for my body type, that's not the thinnest part of my body, and so, but it's still my waist, and so that's not always true depending on your body type. But the bend has worked really well for me. I used to think it was a belly button. That's not your waist, that's too low. It's when you bend, where it naturally kind of bends. So mine's like right there. So that's my waist. You start right at the top and then you take the measurement at each point. So you point at the bust, you point at the underbust, keep it scooped, point at the waist, and then point at where you want the scoop of the corset to go. And then you're going to take the circumference of each of those points. If you want to do this perfectly, you could place a little piece of tape at each point on your body, so you make sure you get the circumference and the height measurement in the same spot. Again, this is a really quick and hacked way of doing it. Also, I would recommend taking these in the mirror because you want the measuring tape to be straight around your body. Okay, so what you're going to do first is you're going to draw a 90-degree angle. Okay. So now it's really straightforward. This is a really intuitive way of doing it, so it's really not going to be that hard. I believe in you. Okay. So now what we're going to do, this is that part 0 we set at the top, okay? That's our 0-inch top. And then for me, remember these are my measurements, so go with what your measurements were. From the top to my center bust was 4 inches, so I'm going to make a mark at 4 inches. And then from there, it was 7 inches down. And then 12.5 was my waist. And 16 inches was where I want the scoop bottom to go. So now I'm just going to draw a line out at each of these points. And then if you want, you can label these. I would recommend labeling them. I should label them because I'm about to teach you. So this is the center bust. Can I do this sideways? This is the underbust. I'm just going to mark it as UB for the underbust. That looks like CB now. Okay. Underbust. This is the waist. We're going to write them sideways now. And this is the hem. I'll say that. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to take because remember I took the circumference of my whole body, but in reality what we're doing right now is we're patterning the front half of the front. So we're only patterning a quarter of our measurements. Because if this was on my body, it would only be 1/2 of my front of my body. So I'm only going to do a quarter of my circumference. I need my phone here for my math. So my bust was 46, so 46 divided by 4 is 11.5. So I'm going to line this up. Come on. I'm going to line this up to 11.5. I'm going to find 11.5, and I'm going to mark 11.5. Okay, so here's my 11.5. Then my underbust was 40, which is easy. 40 divided by 4 is 10. Most people don't do the underbust, which is fair. You don't really need it, but I do it because I'm weird. I don't know. I don't really have an explanation for why I do it. And then my waist was 45. Line that up. 45 divided by 4. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to figure out how much of a dart we need. This is going to be really ineffective because my dart is going to be tiny because I have a very small bust to waist difference. Let's pattern this as if I had a skinnier waist. Because if I had a 46, let's say I had a 40-inch waist, okay? We're going to pretend I had a 40-inch waist. So let's change this measurement here. Let's say my measurement was a 40-inch waist. Because I'm not going to be using this pattern, so don't have to worry about it. So let's say I had a 40-inch waist. So then I would have a 6-inch difference. So if I had a 6-inch difference between my bust and my waist, I want to add enough darts. I want to add enough width of darts
that I get my waist measurement up to 46. But keep in mind, this is the full measurement for my whole circle, and we're only doing a quarter of the measurement right now. So this is the front. So standard dart size for your back is going to be 1.5 inches. So we have 6-inch difference, right? So 46 to 40. And then we add 1.5 inch dart to the back, but that's only on a quarter of the body. So we're actually gonna multiply this by 2 because we're gonna have 2 1.5 back darts. So it's gonna be 3 inches. So that takes care of 3 inches of our difference, okay? So now we need, so there's a 6-inch difference, so we still need 3 more inches for the front. But now we need the front, so we still need 3 inches. So 3 divided by 2, and 1.5 inch front dart times both sides of the front is another 3 inches. Together that's 6 inches. That is the difference we have here, so that's what we need. So we need to add 1.5 inches to our 10-inch mark right here. So 10 plus 1.5 is 11.5 up to there. That is the one we want. I'm circling it because I have another mark right by that I messed up on. Next step that we need is the apex. I forgot to tell you to measure the apex. That would have been a helpful thing to tell you. So when you measure the apex, it's really straightforward. It's just from your nipple to your nipple. Mine is 7.5. Let's go with 8 because that's so much easier to do math with, but it really, whatever, do your actual measurement please. I'm just doing 8 because I'm lazy. So if we have 8 inches, we're going to divide that by 2 to get 4 inches. So now we're going to come to this bust line right here. Almost did it on the wrong line. My bust line right here, and we are going to go out 4 inches and put a dot right there, okay? Now, this is really straightforward. We're just going to draw a line through that dot, excuse me. So line it up so that it'll be perfect, and all the way up and down, the whole body, we're going to draw the line. Then we're going to come to the waistline. How much did we add to the waist? 1.5 inches. So we want to add 1.5 inch evenly on either side so that it's 1.5 inch total. So 1.5 divided by 2 is 0.75. So I'm going to line it up so 0.75 is in the middle. And there's that. And then other side, 0.75. And then if we measure this whole thing, it's 1.5 inches, okay? These are dart legs. So now we take these points right at that line and we're going to connect them back up to the apex point. And look at that, you just made a dart. I'm going to use my handy dandy, mostly broken styling design ruler from Dritz. It has the French curve and the hip curve. And I'm going to take this wide hip curve part and just draw on a line right there. As you can see, the underbust mark we made doesn't do anything. It's a completely moot point, but we're just going to draw that line in right there. Okay? So now we need to worry about the armhole. Let's do the armhole next, okay? You're going to bring the bust up as much as you want the armhole to be up from your center. Remember, this is the center of your bust. So if you want it to go up, how much do you want it to go up? Let's say we want it to go up 2 inches. So I'm going to make a mark 2 inches above the bust, and then I'm going to draw a line connecting that mark to the bust line. Okay? And now we're going to draw a sleeve in. Very straightforward. We're just going to take the sleeve part, the French curve part of this. The machine is getting in the way. And we are going to line it up and just draw in the curve. If we had a full-on shoulder and strap and like it wasn't a strapless dress, we would continue this curve up to whatever point the shoulder's at. Because we're only going to the bust, we only have a baby bit of an armhole. But I want to adjust this top right here. On the corset I made for Ellie, I wanted it to be a little smoother of a transition. So I actually just took this curve, lined it up here, and drew that in. Okay, and then I actually wanted Ellie's to go up even further than that. So I actually kind of like went there and drew. And this part I'm just kind of freehanding. This is completely stylistic. This is no purpose other than the look I wanted it. So I can make it really whatever angle I want. I just use this curve to make my life a little easier. You do want it to be straight right here where it meets this, because when it meets up with the other side, we want it to be straight across. So I'm just gonna straighten that out. Okay, and then there's the shape. So now the last thing we need to figure out is the bottom shape here. But I'm not going to do that all the way yet until I close this dart. That is actually not what I'm going to do. Sorry, I lied to you. So I want the thing to stop right there. So I'm going to draw in a curve right there. And then I'm going to curve it down from over here to like right there. Okay, so now I got this curve in, and now I'm actually going to close the dart legs right there. Sorry, I lied to you. So we close out the dart leg at that point right there. Okay, so pretty straightforward from here. So now we have our pattern. I would recommend making a mock-up of this first to make sure you like the shape of everything. Especially this part is a little wonky. You might need to make a mock-up to make sure you get this part right before you make your final product. So I'm just going to cut this out. But first I want one more seam. So for mine, I'm going to cut through this dart. I'm going to cut right along these lines and just cut that dart piece right out. And then I want one more seam on this side of the bodice as well. So I'm going to grab another ruler, and my distance between here was 4 inches, right? So I'm going to go another 4 inches and make a mark at the 8-inch spot. And then I'm going to just draw a line right there. Okay, next, the most important step in all of this is labeling. So let me grab one of these die markers. This is center front. I would label Kyla's corset, blah, 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 whatever corset you're doing. But again, this is not, I'm not going to use this. And then this is, I'm marking this as second front. And then this is side front. So you're going to do the exact same on the back, except let me show you what you're going to do for the back. You're going to look at this. If you wanted, we could have done this on a wider piece of paper and done the back at the same time. But it's really straightforward what we're going to do for the back. We are going to mark the bust, underbust, and waistline from this pattern. So if I wanted, pretend there's another piece of paper here, I would just extend the bust, underbust, and waistline. Make sure those line up. If we wanted to just take the back from this piece, that would be really straightforward. You're just going to draw in a line from that armhole. And this is your back piece right here. Everything is the exact same. For this, if your measurements were different, for me, my back and my front dart were the exact same. So I could literally just take this piece and keep it as the same. But if it was different, you would have to repattern the waistline to have the dart, redraw that line in, do the exact same thing just with these pieces, and I would just have it extend from that armhole there. Unless you wanted it to go back up, in which you could do that too. And I would just want it to be a straight way across the waistline. I don't want this divot in the back, so that's what I did. So let me show you Ellie's pattern pieces. So we have the center back right there. Let me show you what they looked like. And then this is the side back. And then this is the second back. So these pieces were originally all one piece, but I just cut out that dart, and this is the back. And then this is the side seam right here. This is the center back. Really straightforward, okay? That's the back. Then let me show you the front. So the front is a little more complicated, but we have, this is the side front, this is the second front, and this is the center front. So as you can see, it was originally all lined up like this. One piece of paper like that. And then I just cut it out, and as you can see, I kind of closed the dart. That is a very quick
rough tutorial of how I made the corset. If you want more details, I'm happy to tell you how I did it in more detail. Okay, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for following along on this journey. I am really excited for this dress. The fashion show is 2 months from yesterday, so I gotta get a move on. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.